Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, today is Friday, August 21st, 2026. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is locked in a competitive re-election race. She'll join us live to discuss her campaign, the backlash she is facing over a donation matching program. Karmelo Anthony's trial attorney testifies on the second day of the motion for a new trial. The defense says instructions given to the jury made it unfairly difficult to argue Anthony's self-defense claim. The racist Trump administration is attempting to erase black history again, this time the U.S. Navy, by considering renaming a aircraft carrier after an African-American after Trump, who never, ever served in the military. We'll be joined by a family member. A black North Carolina woman gets detained for refusing to give over her Ring camera video to police. We'll show you what happened. Plus, we'll show you the body camera video of an Arkansas cop who is now on leave after pointing his weapon to the head of an unarmed black man. And why are Republicans still crying over Senator John Ossoff calling out Donald Trump's female aide, Natalie? They're so weak. Such snowflakes. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best. You know he's Roland Martin now.
It's the second day of Karmelo Anthony's motion hearing for a new trial. Another attorney was part of Carmelo's defense team during the trial, has testified. Toby Shook told Judge Michael Chitty that he and lead defense attorney Mike Howard decided to keep the scope of the case limited to what happened in the tent after learning about the stalking allegations. Shook also admitted that the defense team agreed the school trainer would testify only about what happened under the tent. They would keep out any mentions of the Metcalf brothers' character traits and racist history. Prosecutor Bill Werski was called as a witness. Defense attorney Russell objected to Werski's testimony, arguing that he couldn't be both an advocate and a witness. However, Judge Chitty allowed Werski to take the stand. As he said in his opening statement, Werski said that security concerns for the defendant and witnesses are why they tried to keep the case files from public view. The bulk of Werski's testimony centered around the gentleman's agreement over the character trait evidence being left out of the trial. No word on when the judge would make his decision on whether Karmelo deserves a new trial. Now, when we mentioned that whole issue about the stalking, prosecutors allege that the ex-girlfriend of Karmelo Anthony said he had been stalking her. My panel, joining me right now, Candace Kelly, legal analyst, host Takeaway with Candace Kelly from South Orange, New Jersey. Matt Manning, civil rights attorney from Corpus Christi. Michael Imhotep, host African History Network show out of Detroit. Candace, I'm going to start with you. Just your assessment so far of this effort by this new defense team of Karmelo Anthony trying to convince a judge that Karmelo deserves a new trial.
Well, listen, this is one of the things that goes back to that agreement that you were talking to, the agreement which both sides agreed, with a handshake, a gentleman's agreement, as they call it, that this character witness, this character information would be left out. Now, what happened during the trial was that Karmelo Anthony was going to take the stand, but prosecutors said, wait a minute, you can't take the stand because once you take the stand, we're going to ask you about your character. So they're saying we didn't go over the scope of whether or not he would take the stand and what we would ask and what we may not be able to ask. So he did not take the stand. Now, that's very important because we would have heard his side. We would have heard exactly what happened. So the question really becomes, and the judge has to decide by Monday whether or not there will be a new trial. The question really becomes, if that trial is granted, all that information, will we hear it in terms of character evidence? The answer is probably yes. They want to get that in, but they're going to get it in on both sides. And as we knew, the fact that they agreed that no character evidence would be brought in, they both have things that are in their background. But we're going to be able to hear that if they get a new trial. If they don't get a new trial, he will appeal it all the way probably up to the Supreme Court if he wants to. But a new trial means new evidence. New trial means character evidence, and probably Karmelo Anthony taking the stand.
That point right there, Matt, is important. Obviously, the prosecutors could have brought in some information regarding Karmelo Anthony, but the other issue is that the racist stuff regarding the Metcalf brothers also would come in. And so, listen, a jury has to decide whether that stuff actually matters.
It does. And, you know, to kind of break things down for people really quickly. So character evidence is important. I have a murder case right now. I had a hearing yesterday involving character evidence where the alleged victim was violent in the past. So I was asking the judge to give me records because I made this exact argument. A jury has to know the person who was involved in this and whether they had a character for peacefulness or for violence, right? So a jury needs to know that. Now, I will say what I think is going to be a little problematic and maybe difficult is if they had a gentleman's agreement, is really going to be a question for the judge of weighing trial strategy and basically trial by consent, meaning did y'all consent to not bringing these character issues? And if your attorney consented that, I mean, the judge can still make the decision on one of the 8 grounds under our Texas Code of Criminal Procedure that allows for new trials. But, you know, he might determine, look, you decided not to put on this evidence. It's not that you didn't have the evidence, you elected not to put it forward. And that may be a thorny issue for the judge to kind of work through on whether he's determined that Mr. Anthony is ultimately was given a fair trial if his lawyers chose volitionally not to put that on. However, that's what juries realistically want these days, and that's what they should always be provided. They need to know the motivations behind what people do. They need to know other things that are admissible under the rules of evidence, because if not, you can't make a true determination as to whether Mr. Anthony was in fear for his safety when he used the knife. I mean, there are a lot of things, and the way our law works in the state of Texas with self-defense is you have to have a reasonable belief that you're facing force. Well, the 2 issues with that are, one, he would have to have known, presumably, the character for violence that the Metcalf boys had. However, if that comes in, then it puts into greater context if there's any information from witnesses that say he was menacing him, threatening him, saying crazy things to him. Well, then if a jury hears that in the past they've been violent, that validates that, and that makes his fear all the more reasonable. So that's kind of how that character evidence would be used here, and exactly why I don't understand why his defense attorney didn't put it in, but I suspect they were probably concerned about the racial overtones, and they were trying to try as clean a case and not getting into extraneous things. But we'll see what the judge determines in terms of whether Mr. Anthony got a fair trial, you know, by not having that evidence put into the trial.
But the thing here, this is for Matt and Candace, is both of your lawyers. I mean, bottom line is this here. If you're a defense attorney, your job is to represent your client to the best that you can. And we've had the prosecutor, we've had the character report show that Austin Metcalf kicked out of a previous track meet, threatened other people, kicked out of a football game, discipline issues at the school as well. That is a different narrative than one that was created that, oh, Austin Metcalf, you know, was just a regular, ordinary, you know, athlete who was just unfortunately stabbed in the chest by Karmelo Anthony. We're talking about an individual with serious signs of aggression at school, off-site, football, track meets. How, I mean, again, Candace, how, I get the gentleman's agreement, but your job is to save your client.
Yeah, and that is why it's really important that when and if Karmelo Anthony takes a stand, we find out if at that time he knew about Metcalf's background. That's very important. We know that now because of social media, because we have all the documents that we can look up. At that time, and that's why we were able to hear from him specifically, if that was a problem that made him feel like his life was in danger. But the prosecutors, they have to actually make that case. And so that's why it's going to be very, very important. And you're right. we should know this information. But because they agreed upon it and did not have that information available, again, both sides have negative information. These are basically young kids. They have records. It makes sense. And like Matt said, you try to keep that information out so it doesn't displace the core argument of what you're trying to do. And race, as we know, and racism always will do that. Or if you're looking at Karmelo Anthony and stalking, is that fair to determine whether or not at the time under that tent, he feared for his life enough to fear that and act in a way that he defended himself in the way that he did. So this agreement is important, which is why we're hearing the details about it. And it's going to look totally new when, he goes through the appeals process or he's granted a new trial.
Matt, explain to people how difficult it is in Texas to get a new trial.
It's difficult. It is extremely difficult because judges usually want to not upset the decision of the jury, right? We give great credence to what a jury does. Now, certainly we have it on the books where a judge can set it aside if the verdict is contrary to the law and the evidence. There are a number of other things, if jurors are improperly contacted, I believe, and some other issues regarding misconduct on the part of jurors or misconduct, I guess, also on the part of the prosecutor, particularly if you have Brady or Michael Morton, which is our state defense law issues, where something comes out after the fact that a seminal piece of evidence was not given to the defense. I mean, there has to be that safeguard to ensure that people get a fair trial. But I think what's going to be difficult about this determination for the judge is this is going to fall into, is this permissible trial strategy, or did his team were they just completely ineffective and did not defend him? I will tell you, I joked yesterday, I'm a scattershot defense lawyer. I fight every single thing. And I was yelling at a prosecutor yesterday saying, you're the one that brings the indictment. My client has no duty to do a single thing. You have to prove the indictment. But at the end of the day, I have to make strategic decisions on what evidence comes in and what doesn't. And I think that's going to really be the crux of the question. Did Mr. Howard have the authority, the volition to choose not to go on that character evidence? Because there are times where you wouldn't use character evidence because you're concerned that a jury is going to dislike your client if you're running at a victim or alleged victim and running at their character if the circumstances are such that, their character is really extraneous to the issue right in front of you. I mean, looking at that from a legal strategic position, I can see the judge probably struggling with that decision and the gentleman's agreement. I think that's going to be the crux of it. But the other thing that people need to know, and then I'll turn it over, is Rule 403 of our rules of evidence, and I think the federal rules of evidence as well, always gives the judge a balancing. So the judge always has to decide whether this evidence is going to be more probative, meaning proving something, than it is prejudicial, obviously prejudicial to the jury's determination. And that's going to be crucially important because what Candace alluded to is if Mr. Anthony didn't know any of this stuff about Metcalf's background beforehand, then I don't know that it can necessarily be extrapolated from that he had a reasonable belief he was in fear of his safety because of those things in his background. And that's something that either Judge Roach or the next judge would consider in terms of whether they let that in or not. And the trial court is the gatekeeper on that evidence. So even if they had offered it, it's not a guarantee it would have come in. But if it had come in, it most certainly would have had a measurable effect on the jury.
The thing that still bothers me, Michael, is that, this defense team, by God, he gets convicted by the jury on the same day he's sentenced. It was as if they put up no aggressive defense even in the sentencing. I surely thought we were going to have 2 or 3 days of witnesses testifying to Karmelo Anthony as a student, as a church member, whatever. It was like, well, okay, one witness, there you go, his mama, that's it, back to the jury. And they were like, an hour or two later, boom, 35 years.
Yeah, it felt like there was not a fight on his side, fighting for him even after the conviction. So 2 quick things here, Roland. Number one, yesterday, the Star Telegram had an excellent article, and we found out, as you talked about at the top of this segment, new allegations about racism against both Hunter and Austin Metcalf. And the Star Telegram talks about how in the hearing yesterday, 53 different incidents of violence and racism by the Metcalf brothers were introduced in the motion. So this is totally different than how the two brothers were portrayed during the trial. And it was portrayed as Karmelo was the big bad enemy, the big bad evil one. Okay. And then to Matt's point, the Grio has a piece on this where they talk about the gentleman's agreement, so to speak. And it talked about keeping out character evidence from both from the two, but it said it was to prevent the racially charged case from becoming even more inflammatory. Now, I'm not an attorney, but if I was a defense attorney, I'd have to go to bat for my client. And if putting the evidence out there and, putting everything in these 53 incidents of violence or racism by the Metcalf brothers, if that ratchets up the racism tone, well, so be it. We got to get my client off. So, we'll see. I think he has a much better team here, and we're finding out a lot just in these past 2 days. So we'll see how this turns out.
I do want Candace and Matt to speak to that. Candace, that also was weird to me. This, we don't want this racial stuff to get out of hand. And if I'm an attorney, first of all, I don't give a damn. I'm watching this going, I got a black kid stabbed a white kid in a nearly all-white conservative county. Hell, race is sitting right in front of me.
It is. What was also sitting in front of the jury would be Karmelo Anthony's background. And we see that can go either way. Once they open that door, now you're really into his mind. You're really into who he is as a person. You're into what he does on the weekends. You're into, what he posts on social media. Anything can come in. And then I think both sides, I'm on the fence, but I think they both made a good decision to say, you know what, maybe let's leave that both alone for our clients. And let's see if on the facts, this can move on. Now, we know, obviously, this did not work out for him. I also wanted to address your question about the jury. This really is interesting because the jury, they decided they made their decisions very quickly. Then they did the sentencing very quickly. And this is because they were so overwhelmed that this was his intent to do what he did and that he was so guilty that they didn't need any more time. And this is why I think these defense attorneys have such an open door to come in and say otherwise. We haven't even talked about that judge that already made the determination that this is exactly how the trial was, so that it was a good outcome. And we know that this is not done. We know that those people who find themselves found guilty, they can appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court, like I said. So for the judge to put some finality on that was wrong, unfortunate, and he should be more than recused from this particular case. But we have all these things going on with all types of new information. He needs a new trial. He needs a new trial to really work this through. He can probably get some place on an appeal, but he needs a trial so that we can find out the why, to get inside his head. That's what was missing in this whole trial.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know specifically what you want me to speak to, but I'll tell you a couple things. So
well, no, I want to speak to this idea of, hey, let's not do this because we don't want to raise the racial tensions. They were already raised.
Yeah. So I understand strategically why you might be cognizant of that. I mean, to be straight up, right? Especially all white rural Texas, or that's not really rural, but all white county, wealthy county in Texas. I can see how a lawyer in a vacuum would be concerned about that. However, to your point, I tried a case in May. It involved black defendants and a black alleged victim. The N-word was involved, and I ran straight at it because the truth of the matter is juries want to see the sexier evidence. I mean, let's just be honest about it, right? And I don't think you need to be campy about that. I don't think you need to be dishonest or disingenuous, but I don't think you need to run away from something like racial tensions. I think you need to be strategic and use them where they're appropriate, but I don't think you need to do something like this, especially because from the character evidence standpoint, what Metcalf was saying was racially charged stuff. So it's not just a white kid and a black kid. It's a white kid with a history of saying racially charged things, particularly about black people, right? So if your defense is rooted in the idea that Mr. Anthony was afraid for his safety and that Metcalf was menacing him inside that tent, a jury certainly needs to know that Metcalf holds, racist views on black people. And therefore, if there's environmental testimony, because I know Mr. Anthony didn't testify, there's environmental testimony that he was saying hateful things to him or otherwise menacing him, it would be in conformity with his character. So that's precisely why you would offer this evidence, and that's why you would beat that drum fully. And you would hope that even white people who may not be your perfect prospective juror would look at it and say, yeah, I think Anthony was reasonably in fear of his life because this kid who's known to have racist views and say hateful things against black people was there menacing him in that tent. I mean, those two things marry with each other, and I would have beaten that drum, as long as the day was long, because that's what you have to do for a jury to really look at the reasonableness of his use of force. So I don't understand why they chose to do that, but it looks like his new team is really running full speed at the ineffective assistance of counsel. I'm just concerned that the judge is going to say they made a trial strategic decision not to include this evidence, and a lawyer gets a pretty wide latitude on ineffective assistance of counsel, and that's going to be the biggest hurdle in my eyes for them to get over.
All right, well, folks, it continues, and so we will continue to cover this as it develops. All right, got to go to a break. We come back. We'll be talking with the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. She's running for re-election in a tight race. We'll talk about what she is going to do to win re-election as the mayor of Los Angeles. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, and people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show.
Nope.
Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand, so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us.
Nope.
What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
Got to push
vote for love, because that hate is going to create an energy that's going to go somewhere. And if it doesn't go to love, it will go to destruction. And that destruction will end up killing us all.
Now, we want to remember folk that have been shot. Remembering Alex, Sister Good, and all of the folk that have died that we don't even know about.
I bring you greetings from the North Carolina Council of Churches because we stand with you today. Amen. Because we love strong public education for all of our people.
Not loving immigrants would mean that you do not love yourself. One of the ways to love forward is loving immigrants.
The cruel and deadly policies by people in our state and federal government are making us feel very tired. We are so tired of being scared for our lives. We are tired of being treated as disposable. We all have to promise to fight for our voting rights so we can love our neighbors. We have to vote for love.
Something's happening, y'all. People are coming together over all different kinds of lines.
I'm Mark Curry, and you're watching the Black Star Network. That's why I got these glasses on, because that black star is bright.
Folks, former Congresswoman Karen Bass has finished her first term as mayor of Los Angeles, and she is in a tight re-election battle. The first round saw her come out on top. That, of course, was involved Spencer Pratt and others as well. But now she is facing a fellow council member in this particular runoff. So the race is November 3rd. And on Wednesday had their first debate, and they talked about homelessness, public safety, as well as the local economy. And things got a little heated. And so right now, let's talk with Mayor Bass. Mayor, glad to have you here. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing fine, Roland. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, you had to battle different things. Of course, you have the issue of homelessness. That was something that you and I talked about even when you got elected. And that is a significant issue. You also had, of course, the devastating fires that took place. You took a ton of blame for that, even in areas that you don't control as mayor of Los Angeles that happened in the county as well. And so what's the case that you're laying out to voters as to why you deserve a second 4-year term?
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, Roland, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and your guests. You know, Los Angeles is a city filled with opportunities. It absolutely is. We have a lot on our calendar in 2 years. The Olympics will be here. We just finished the World Cup. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to make sure that the city is safe and affordable. And let me just tell you, Roland, affordability is our number one issue that I have been addressing from day one. I have fast-tracked 42,000 units of housing to be built. We've rezoned our entire city so that we can build 500,000 more units. And we are beginning to turn things around in our city. You know, when I came into office, the city was really just coming out of COVID. And that was a very tough thing that our city faced, just as most cities around the country did. We've had some long-standing problems in our city, and I have been addressing them. Now, Roland, you probably remember that the reason I ran was because the homelessness issue here was just so devastating, with tens of thousands of Angelenos on the street. And Black folk are only 9% of our population, but over 30% of the people on our street. And so tackling that right away is what we did. And we had our first decline in street homelessness 2 years in a row. We went up last year after we were facing cuts on the state level and also on the federal level. But we continue to get our Angelenos housed and off the street. And we have so much more to do. And we've laid a strong foundation to go into the next 4 years, and I'm looking forward to that. We're building a grassroots campaign like I always do. You know, I am able to bring together people from all around the city, and we're doing exactly that.
Affordability obviously is being discussed everywhere, all across the country, local, state, national, congressional, U.S. Senate races. I mean, you name it. But what actually can a mayor do on affordability?
Right.
It's not like you can't actually control food prices. You can't control gas prices, things along those lines. So what can you actually do to address affordability in the city of Los Angeles?
Sure. And let me just tell you that the number one thing that we can do is to address the cost of housing. That's why I led with that and said that we fast track tens of thousands of units. We're also converting vacant office buildings into housing. So housing is the number one way that we can address affordability. Now, at the same time, we also have mechanisms in place, and we have started organizations. I established the Mayor's Fund to prevent people from being evicted. So, and protections for tenants over rent hikes. So that's the main role that a mayor can have in terms of affordability, because you're absolutely right. I mean, the uncertainty that has emanated from Washington, D.C., of course, has had massive impact here as well, impacting our overall economy. But let me just tell you something else. We have our entertainment industry, our bedrock industry. We are the creative capital in the world. And that has been a big focus of mine. Even before taking office as the mayor, it was a focus of mine in the state legislature and in Congress. And so one of the things I have done is we hired a film czar who basically provides concierge services for anybody that wants to film in LA. And we have dramatically reduced the cost of filming in LA, all in an effort to keep the jobs here. And that has been very important. And we have seen a return of filming, both TV shows and movies, because on the state level, we were able to get one of the largest increases in our tax credits, something that I pioneered when I was Speaker of the Assembly. When I was in the state legislature, I did the first film tax credit, and then we also doubled or tripled the tax credit this time. Now, we need to go even further. There's much more we need to do, but those are steps that we have taken concretely.
Obviously, we talk about Hollywood. The Paramount, Skydance, Warner merger is a huge issue. The California Attorney General and other attorneys general are suing. And a lot of people are concerned that if this merger goes through, it is going to devastate the economy there in Hollywood. There are going to be lots of job losses. Have you or the City Council weighed in and expressed your thoughts on this potential merger?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just tell you, my number one order of business is to make sure that we do not lose those jobs. And so I have not been supportive of the merger. Yesterday, I did meet, though, with representatives, our labor partners, as well as I've been talking to industry to have people make a decision about which direction this is going. So I spoke to the Attorney General yesterday, and I know things are moving forward, that there are going to be some discussions over the next few days. I'll tell you, one of the things, as I was mentioning before, that has been so difficult is the uncertainty out of Washington, D.C. with the White House, but we have uncertainty here over this merger. So I don't want to see any policy or any merger go through that is going to create massive job loss, but we do need to end the uncertainty now.
Campaign funds are obviously a critical issue. And so I saw this story, and I'm just trying to figure out what the hell is the issue. So Fox News and other folks have been talking about it. Karen Bass ripped after viral video lays out taxpayer-funded match of campaign donations. Now, it says right here, Los Angeles Super Match Program has been in effect since 1990, and the 6-to-1 ratio took effect in 2019. That's 17 years ago. You weren't even in Congress. You weren't even in Congress 17 years ago.
No.
So so this is a program that was created in order to fund folks who want to run for office. It's a legal program. Right. I'm trying to figure out what's the drama.
Well, let me just tell you, the only candidates who do not take advantage of our matching funds are people who are extremely wealthy, who can afford to run a race and do not need the fundraising support. All candidates use the matching funds. And so I imagine, and I wasn't around when this policy was put in place, but I imagine it was put in place to make it a more democratic process, meaning that it shouldn't just, the democratic process shouldn't just be about who has the most money. And so the matching fund program, again, is a program that all candidates use.
Again, taxpayers are not forced to contribute, correct?
No.
It's voluntary.
No. This is just a program that the city has had for a long time. Taxpayers aren't asked, but this is a program that has been funded by the city for many, many years.
Got it. Okay.
As you point out. But there's a lot of problems, Roland, that have been long-standing problems in our city that I inherited from past leaders who really didn't act on issues like homelessness or public safety. Because one of the issues that was critical at the time that I ran and continues to be, and that is the issue of public safety. So, Roland, you know of work that I've done in the community many years ago. I started an office of community safety where we could focus on preventing crime. If crime happens, obviously you need a police department to respond, but preventing crime from happening, preventing recidivism from happening, working with former young people who were involved in in gangs or other problems in the justice system, getting them involved in positively contributing to our city is something that I have pioneered in the city by having an official Office of Community Safety.
Questions from the panel. Let's start with Michael Imhotep.
All right, Mayor Karen Bass, thanks for coming on today. So my question is, back in June of 2025, Donald Trump deployed 4,000 California National Guard troops as well as 700 Marines, and that was against the consent of Governor Gavin Newsom. And he said he was doing this to protect federal personnel, federal property, and ICE facilities against protests. So my question is, how were you all able to come together and heal from that, move on from that, put things back together after the occupation? Because a lot of people don't focus on the fact that when people are afraid to go outside, they don't shop at stores, including Black-owned stores. So that holds Black-owned businesses as well. So can you talk about that some, please?
Sure. And by the way, there's a lot of Black immigrants. So a lot of people were impacted by the raids. But one thing that we are fortunate for in our city is that we have a very strong immigrant rights infrastructure. And that infrastructure and those organizations I have worked with for many, many years. Our city was united 100%. There wasn't a crack in our city of anybody supporting the federal occupation and intervention in our city. And it was just completely unnecessary because there was nothing happening here that warranted federal intervention. But, you know, our county is very large. We have 88 cities in it. And one of the things that I started doing immediately was organizing all of the mayors, because the mayors were, a lot of cities were impacted, not just the city of Los Angeles, but we stood strong. We stood strong and we resisted. We had organized protests. And I thought the protests were extremely important that we have, because we had to make it very clear, not just for our city, but for the nation, because we knew this was an experiment that was starting here and it was soon going to go to other cities. And it was important for us to have a united front of rejecting this. Even at one point, I had to go out and personally, in front of the National Guard, tell them to leave. And I did exactly that. And they did leave. But I do have to tell you, though, that these raids continue. The massive occupation is gone, but the raids still continue. And our communities and our neighborhoods are still being harassed and people are still being taken away.
All right. Thank you.
Candace.
Mayor, you had mentioned, first of all, it's good to see you. You had mentioned that over 42,000 housing units are being fast-tracked. What is slow, and then what is the fast track that you are speaking of? How fast would that be?
Well, I don't know that if in our city's history we've ever been able to rezone the entire city, making room for 500,000 units. But when I say 42,000 units, I mean they're being fast-tracked through the planning and the permitting process, because within my first 2 weeks of being in office, I signed an executive directive that essentially cut the red tape, reduced the time that permits, through the permitting process. That is what has fast-tracked and expedited the permitting process.
Okay, thank you.
Matt?
And also, out of those 42,000 units that are being fast-tracked, 6,000 are currently under construction.
Mayor Bass, good afternoon, good evening. I had a little question as it relates to some clarity I needed on what Roland asked you earlier. So in terms of the Paramount merger, what are the potential job losses? Because as far as I understand it, the real question is basically, do you keep them there so those jobs aren't lost, or are you giving big business, outsized influence through this merger? So what is your thought process with that? I know you had a press conference yesterday, but I don't really see clarity on what the projected job losses are if Paramount leaves as opposed to the retained jobs. So if you could shed some light on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Well, it's also the timing, because at a time like this, when we're trying to put things back together. I mean, if you just think about it, the industry had to deal with COVID. And then after COVID, there were the strikes. Then there's just the change in the industry in terms of ownership, but also with artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty that is happening. And so the county just released a report about the job loss. And basically, the upshot of that report is that thousands of jobs would be lost if this merger goes through in the way that is being proposed right now. Now, Attorney General Bonta has filed suit. And so in my conversation with him, it's a question of when will a trial happen? When will we know one way or another?
Mayor, one of the stories that we have been talking about is the LAPD officer who recorded fellow workers making racist comments. You blasted the decision, a couple of weeks ago, you blasted the decision to charge them. Well, now felony charges have been dropped against that police officer, Daniel Flores. He will now face misdemeanor charges after a backlash over the felony charges. Talk about that, because, I mean, he was recording folks who are there to protect and serve who are making racist comments.
Right. Exactly. Well, and that's the thing, is that I had been trying to increase the number of officers that we have in our city because we were having massive retirements. And again, in 2 years, we're going to have the Olympics here. I would rather we beef up our police department rather than have federal intervention happen again. And so we were trying to get the officers hired, but we were having problems with the hiring process, not the recruitment process. We had a very, very large recruiting class, but we couldn't get them through the process. We knew that there were problems happening internally. And when we found out about this, then I made personnel changes, because obviously I don't want anybody in the personnel department that is going to be making racist comments about hiring officers when we want to make sure that our police department is diverse. And so I did not agree with what the district attorney did by charging the felonies. I do not want to suppress whistleblowers. We needed people to come forward. And we had finally gotten to the point where people were beginning to come forward and talk about what was happening that was delaying the process internally. And then the officer gets slapped with felony charges. So that's why I disagreed.
I've often talked about the need for African Americans to maximize our vote, and for all folks to do that. There's somebody who's watching who says, you know what, I don't want to hear any of this. I'm sick of politics. They may choose the couch versus voting in this race.
Right.
If that person is watching and listening, what do you say to them as to why they should participate in the electoral process in the mayor's race of Los Angeles?
Well, I mean, I say that our future is at stake. I think we have a very bright future in the city of Los Angeles. And the last thing in the world I want to see is for there to be a new explosion of people on our streets who are homeless. There's some fundamental disagreements that I have with my opponent. And I believe that she would move things backwards, back to policies that I've been fighting since the day that I took office, and we do not want to see that happen. Our city is moving forward. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of problems in the city that have been around for a couple of decades, if not longer, and we're on track to make major headway. That needs to continue moving forward, not to stay backward. And I will just say, for people that don't vote, then you are essentially handing your future over to someone who I think is very dubious in terms of they've been in City Hall for twice as long as I have. They're trying to run a race as though they're an outsider when they are not an outsider. And one needs to look at their record to say, what actually have you accomplished in the 6.5 years you've been in City Hall?
Mayor Karen Bass, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on, Roland. Good to see you.
All right, take care. Folks, go to a break. We come back. A World War II hero has a ship named after him. So why is Pete Hegseth considering stripping the black man's name off of that and putting Donald Trump's name on it? who has never, ever served in the military? We're going to talk to a family member of that brother next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute to our fan club, please do so. Use the Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. It's also for credit cards as well. Check some money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle. Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games. And people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show.
Nope.
Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand, so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us.
Nope.
What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
I'm Ryan Wilson, CEO and co-founder of The Gathering Spot, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Well, the hits keep on coming. Donald Trump and MAGA's attempt to erase black history never seems to end. There are reports, and CNN reported this, that the U.S. Navy is considering renaming the future USS Doris Miller aircraft carrier and potentially naming it after the four-time draft-dodging, twice impeached, criminally convicted felon, con man, as well as never served in the military, Donald Trump. This proposal is drawing much criticism from lawmakers and veterans advocates. The Ford-class aircraft carrier, designated CVN-81, was named after Doris Miller during Donald Trump's first term, marking the first time a U.S. aircraft carrier will be named after an enlisted sailor and the first named after a black American. Now, for those who don't know, Doris Miller, native of Texas, enlisted in the Navy in 1939. Because the military remained segregated at the time, black sailors were largely limited to service roles rather than combat positions. Miller served as a mess attendant aboard the battleship USS West Virginia. According to the Navy accounts, on December 7, 1941, during Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, Miller helped carry wounded sailors to safety, including his mortally wounded commanding officer, after the USS West Virginia was hit by multiple torpedoes and bombs. Untrained on a .50 caliber gun, he then manned that anti-aircraft gun despite, again, no formal training on the weapon. Now, this was the photo that the Navy shot when the family unveiled the plaque commemorating the future Navy ship. Again, this was in January 2020. Now, the CNN report also says that, and here's what go back to my iPad, the Navy is looking instead to rename another warship after Miller, according to one of the sources, and is recommending him for the Medal of Honor, the highest decoration for military valor. The final authorization of the award is up to Congress and approval from Trump. Joining us right now is the great-great-grandniece of Doris Miller, Desiree Mayweather, joining us from Arlington, Texas. Glad to have you on the show. This is...
Thank you for having me.
We've had to consistently deal with this administration just screwing over black folks in the military. You got Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth denying promotions for African Americans. They pull the information of Jackie Robinson from websites. Same thing in terms of Medgar Evers from the Arlington National Cemetery website. They removed the portrait of General Davis. It's like it just goes on and on and on. And so, has your family been in touch with the Navy? Has anybody talked to y'all about this CNN report?
No, we have been unaware. We haven't been contacted pertaining to this matter. From hearing it, we are, we're upset. We've been fighting hard to get this for my great uncle. And then to know that it's being named after someone that didn't even fight in the services, it's just kind of a dishonor, But we're still fighting hard. Hopefully we are able to see that ship sail one day, hopefully sooner than later, as well as the Medal of Honor following behind it.
And so is the family communicating? I mean, how many relatives do you have, and are y'all, what are y'all doing to make sure that the attention stays on his actions and that he followed through on what they promised 6 years ago?
So we are a big family, and we go by the saying Miller Strong, and with that, we're just all hands on deck. We're doing our interviews, we're talking to people, we're reaching out to who we feel can help us, so that way we are able to still fight and get this ship sailed.
Questions from the panel. First off, Candace.
I'm just curious about what those conversations have been like within the family, in terms of specifically, how you found out about this and how you all came together and said, what's going on? What did that look like?
Well, we have a family group chat. So probably like most families, it hit the group chat, got together, came up with a plan, and then here we are. I'm one of the advocates right now, speaking to y'all, trying to get it out. So hopefully everyone watching can go fight for us, speak for us, so that we are able to get, the ship sailed for my uncle under his honor.
Michael?
And the White House hasn't reached out, or anybody from executive level?
No, ma'am.
Michael?
So my question would be, what is it that you would want us to know about Doris Miller or Dory Miller that it may not be in public? We know that he was portrayed by Cuba Gooding Jr. in the movie Pearl Harbor. We see these various stories from different news outlets, NBC News, CNN, The Guardian. But what are some things that you want the public to know about him that mainstream media is not telling us?
My great uncle he was just, from a small town, just trying to help his family survive. So his parents wouldn't have to struggle anymore. I'm pretty sure my uncle didn't, go into the military, knowing this was going to happen. But amongst that, he put his fear to the side to help save his captain, to help fight for our country, to get that honor. So I feel like the least we can do is allow this ship to be named after him and let us see it sail.
All right, thank you.
Matt?
So my question is, how is the family considering, I guess, the Navy's department's intent to try to give him the Medal of Honor, I guess, in the context of the ship name being rescinded? I saw in the article that there was a favorable kind of sentiment for that, but I'd love to hear what the family's thoughts are about the Medal of Honor versus the naming of the ship.
Of course, you know, we would be honored to receive that. But at the end of the day, I feel like both is deserving. As a family, we feel like both is deserving. I mean, that's that.
All right, then. Well, listen, we're going to continue to push the issue. We're going to continue to let folks know. And also, if folks actually, I see this here, let folks know there was a monument named after Doris Miller. Exactly where can folks go to see that monument?
It's located in Waco, Texas.
Okay. All right. All right, then. Well, we certainly appreciate it. Desiree, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, I'm going to do this here. This is the Pacific Fleet actually put together a video, the story behind Doris Miller. Give me 1 second. I want to go ahead and play that for y'all. For those of y'all who may not be familiar with this story, check this out.
Behind every medal awarded in battle, there is a story. Many of these stories begin on distant battlefields, showcasing acts of valor in the chaos of combat. The story behind Doris Miller's Navy Cross, however, began in the kitchen of a battleship on a beautiful, quiet Sunday morning. The nation was at peace, and most of the ships assigned to the naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, were pierside. The date was December 7, 1941. Miller was a Navy cook, one of the few ratings open to African Americans at the time. He had just finished serving breakfast on board when he heard the alarm no sailor ever wants to hear. Deafening explosions and thick black smoke filled the air as torpedoes began to rip into the hull of the ship. Miller ran to his battle station, an anti-aircraft battery, just to find it was destroyed. That's when an officer spotted him and asked him to help save the ship's captain, who was bleeding from a shrapnel wound. After assisting the captain, Miller manned a .50 caliber machine gun, and despite having never used one before, began firing it at incoming enemy aircraft to defend his shipmates. By the time he ran out of ammunition, enemy aircraft had bombed and torpedoed through the deck of the ship, and he immediately began to carry his injured shipmates off the sinking ship and to safety. Thousands of American sailors were killed during the attack on Pearl Harbor, but it was clear that Miller's heroic actions saved the lives of many who would have otherwise died that day. Miller was recognized as one of the first U.S. heroes of World War II for his actions that day, and was awarded the Navy Cross by Admiral Chester Nimitz. He became the first African American to earn the Navy Cross. After his award, Miller returned to the fleet and continued to fight. In 1943, his ship was struck by a Japanese torpedo and destroyed. On December 7th, exactly 2 years after Miller's heroic actions at Pearl Harbor, his parents were informed their son was missing in action. While Doris Miller died in battle, his fighting spirit and legacy lives on. His name has come to be synonymous with heroism, bravery, and selflessness. On behalf of the United States Navy, we salute you, Doris Miller, and will never let your story be forgotten.
You heard in that video where they talked about he was one of the first heroes of World War II. what a lot of folks may not be aware of, and again, the reason this is so important because we talk about African Americans and history and the role that we have played. So here he is, one of the first heroes of World War II. The first hero of World War I was also a black man, Sergeant Henry Johnson. And it's important because we're dealing with a racist administration who is doing all they can to completely erase black people from the history. They're doing all they can to create this other, whatever the hell they're doing. And so, for the people who say, this is really no big deal, no, it is. Because they will never, ever be able to strip us of that history. And they'll try. They'll do all they can. That's a movie you can actually go to Netflix. It's called the Harlem Hellfighters, and it's available on Netflix. And again, here you have Sergeant Henry Johnson. I'm gonna play a couple of videos for you. This here was produced by Arlington National Cemetery because President Barack Obama, after all of these years, again, Sergeant Henry Johnson, y'all, was hailed around the country and the world as the first hero of World War I. Yet it took Obama becoming president for this brother to finally get the nation's highest honor, the Medal of Honor. Watch this.
The Medal of Honor is awarded to illustrate acts of heroism above and beyond the call of duty. Over 3,400 medals have been awarded to soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. At Arlington Cemetery, we have 411 Medal of Honor recipients, and that includes the unknown soldiers. The Medal of Honor is a symbol of our nation's gratitude for what these men did.
When the United States entered World War I, Henry enlisted. He joined one of only a few units that he could, the all-black 369th Infantry Regiment, the Harlem Hellfighters. And soon he was headed overseas. At the time, our military was segregated. Most black soldiers served in labor battalions, not combat units. But General Pershing sent the 369th to fight with the French Army, which accepted them as their own. Quickly, the Hellfighters lived up to their name, and in the early hours of May 15th, 1918, Henry Johnson became a legend. His battalion was in northern France, tucked into a trench. Some slept, but he couldn't. Henry and another soldier, Needham Roberts, stood sentry along no man's land. In the pre-dawn, it was pitch black and silent, and then a click, the sound of wire cutters. A German raiding party, at least a dozen soldiers, maybe more, fired a hail of bullets. Henry fired back until his rifle was empty. Then he and Needham threw grenades. Both of them were hit. Needham lost consciousness. Two enemy soldiers began to carry him away while another provided cover, firing at Henry. But Henry refused to let them take his brother in arms. He shoved another magazine into his rifle. It jammed. He turned the gun around and swung it at one of the enemy, knocking him down. Then he grabbed the only weapon he had left, his bolo knife, and went to rescue Needham. Henry took down one enemy soldier, then the other. The soldier he knocked down with his rifle recovered, and Henry was wounded again, but armed with just his knife, Henry took him down too. And finally, reinforcements arrived, and the last enemy soldier fled. As the sun rose, the scale of what happened became clear. In just a few minutes of fighting, 2 Americans defeated an entire raiding party, and Henry Johnson saved his fellow soldier from being taken prisoner. And 97 years after his extraordinary acts of courage and selflessness, I'm proud to award him the Medal of Honor.
The thing here, and I'm going to go to Michael first. We cannot overlook and ignore how these people are trying to completely erase black people from military history, but also the future history in the military. Pete Hegseth is personally blocking black folks from being promoted, women from being promoted. What these people want and desire is what existed before 1948, when President Harry Truman desegregated the armed forces. What they desire is a white man's military.
So many things here, so I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible with this history lesson. But I'm familiar with Sergeant Henry Johnson and the Harlem Hellfighters, the 369th. I teach some of that history. The Harlem Hellfighters also credited with introducing jazz into France as well during World War I also. But I see some similarities here with Sergeant Henry Johnson, World War I, and Doris Miller in World War II, because when you look at Doris Miller, and you mentioned it, and his relative mentioned it also, he was the son of a sharecropper. Okay, well, if you understand the sharecropping system, right, that comes out of racism and trying to find another labor force after slavery ended. Okay, there's a concerted effort that we've talked about on this show from this administration to wipe out the history of African Americans and attack African Americans on all different levels. This is what's happening right now with renaming this carrier ship is another example of that, but is tied into this system of white supremacy and racism, while at the same time Trump and Hegseth and the rest of these clowns say they want merit. They want a merit-based system. But now Donald Trump is the same one who said that Darlene Graham should succeed Lindsey Graham, and she was just in the Senate debate, said she don't know a damn thing about national security, and we're in a war with Iran. But somehow she's qualified to be a U.S. senator, okay? So when you start looking at this, see, these are the consequences of elections. Lastly, when the brothers who served in World War I, when World War I ends in 1918, the next year, 1919, is known as the Red Summer. So they're met with is about 25 race riots that take place in this country. But these brothers continue to fight back because they're out in the streets defending their community, using their military skills, fighting against these white supremacists. So there's a lot of lessons here, okay, in this various levels. But we see how this white supremacy continues from this administration. This is why these 2026 midterm elections, one of the reasons why they're so crucial.
Candace.
Well, this is the reason why it's so important to teach history at home, to teach history in the church, because as you said, if not, Black history would be eviscerated without even understanding, how we got here. But certainly we can't take out what we've contributed to this society. I just think it's a good time for people to kind of sit back and realize what is going on, but also how to fill in the gaps. No matter what school you are going to, they are not teaching enough about Black history. They're not teaching enough about any history except for the history that affects white people, especially white men. You mentioned that he wants a white male Army and Navy and military. Yeah, they're also testing testosterone, right? We want somebody who's a white male that has to have a certain level of testosterone to make sure that they fill, their idea of what it takes to be a man. It's crazy. It is crazy, but it also is just another reminder that we have to do our own work and we have to continue to talk about it because they want to disappear us. This is exactly what this is about. And this is exactly how they've been continuing since he has been in office.
Keep saying, Matt, elections have consequences. And people need to understand, because Donald Trump is sitting in the Oval Office and not Kamala Harris, these things have been taking place. Pete Hegseth has put back the portrait of Robert E. Lee in the cafeteria at West Point, in the dining hall. Okay? They put back that Confederate. They were so shameful that they went back. So instead of using the Confederate names of the Army bases, they literally went through American history to find a last name the same as the Confederates in order to rename, these bases. In fact, there was a base that was in Louisiana that was actually named after Johnson that then got renamed. So what they are directly impacting black economics, because by denying promotions to African Americans who have absolutely earned them, you're now impacting their retirement pay. You're impacting how high they can go. For the people who always talk about merit, what they really are doing are promoting their cronies. They are promoting white men who are less qualified than the African Americans and the women who have been recommended through a rigorous process. For the people who say, man, my vote don't matter, this is an example of yes, it does.
And this is an example that should be the least politicized example, at least in terms of what we talk about as national values, things that are nationally important, right? The heroism of our service members. And my experience is anecdotal in this regard, but I don't think it tracks with even most white military service members. One of my dear childhood friends died in Afghanistan when I was in law school. His name was Brian Lundy. He was a Navy hospital corpsman, and he lost his life in the battlefield. Every year I post something about him. Every year our friends post something about him. And overwhelmingly, white service people and Hispanic service people and all the other people who have served will just continue to tell me what a hero he is and hold him up. I mean, they would say he's the kind of man, a black man, who should be heralded for his heroism, right? And that's from white service members. So I don't even think this tracks what actual service members think is important. What this tracks is political rhetoric. And this is people who want to whitewash history and who want to whitewash the military, despite the fact that people in the military very often understand the sacrifice and will hold up a black person or a non-white person or a non-straight person or a non-male person for their heroism and their service. And, this is purely, we think it's politically expedient, politically valuable to undermine these people, and we're going to do that. And, it's interesting to me, and I don't really understand how it makes sense, but this is generally the same contingent of people who espouse the greatest respect for the military, right? So you would think there would be a contingent of MAGA voters who are like, man, this is a bridge too far, because these are the people that we hold up on a pedestal, and you're saying that even black and non-white people who are a part of these groups should not be held up, and they should be the gold standard because of their service. So I don't really understand the cognitive dissonance, but I think you're exactly right, because that's why President Obama gave the Medal of Honor to Henry Johnson. And then in the next administration, even though a couple years later, you see them now changing military bases back to Confederate names under the guise of it being someone else with the same name. It's pure racism, and I'm surprised that even people in that lot accept it.
So, folks understand, Fort Polk was renamed after Sergeant Henry Johnson in 2024. It lasted 1 year. And a year later, that's when Trump came in and they took it back to Fort Polk, stripping that base after, again, let me remind y'all, he was not the first black hero of World War I. He was the first American hero of World War I who fought off and killed 32 Germans by himself. And it took more than 100 years, almost nearly 100 years, to get the Medal of Honor. That's called racism in America. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, and people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
What's up? It's Talib Kweli. I'm CEO. This is the Black Star Network.
Black conservatives are learning the hard way that being a Republican isn't enough for those racist white folks. Although Congressman Byron Donalds won Florida's Republican gubernatorial primary by a wide margin on Tuesday, he underperformed among some of the state's whitest and most rural places, losing several counties outright to current Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. Donalds lost 17 counties across Florida, and in 16 of them, at least 92% of Republican voters are white. In counties where GOP members are more diverse, he beat Collins in 39 out of 40. What could this portend for November when he is going to be facing former Republican turned Democrat, former Congressman David Jolly? What you think, Candace?
You know what? White folks are telling on themselves. That's what I think. And, it's something that is not surprising because when we see the way that across the country, what we've been talking about, especially in the last segment, how Black folks are being treated and how they're regarded, it is hard for them to see someone in a Black position leading them. And that's what this really stems from. At the end of the day, often what happens is that decisions are made, maybe not this one, but many times decisions are made that in terms of white people and what they're choosing that often will hurt them. I don't know what the situation will be in this case. However, we know that this is something that makes sense in terms of them not being able to identify with this particular candidate. And we know exactly why. We know it's somebody that they do not trust. We know it's somebody that they are not used to. And even though they got the backing of Donald Trump, it wasn't enough. And I think that is very, very telling about the world and the society in which we live.
Matt. Matt, you want to hit the mute button, Matt?
said what I'm really baffled by is I don't know how you grow up in Brooklyn and then end up being the MAGA candidate for governor in Florida. That's just wild to me. But in any event, I think Candace hit the nail on the head. I think there are a lot of people who are, whether they'll ever admit it, are subconsciously not okay with a black person leading them, or who subconsciously think he's not as qualified, and therefore that's why they're not going to vote for him. I would say maybe a political reason might be that he doesn't have the same gravitas in their minds as Ron DeSantis, who's leaving, who I think is a nut job. But similar to Trump, I think, has a large contingent of people that like him from a personality standpoint. Maybe they don't think Donald has that juice, but I think the obvious elephant in the room is that this brother does not embody what they expect their prototypical person to look like, and therefore they went in a different direction. But I don't know whether that means he still loses the election overall. I don't know enough about the other candidate to speak educatedly on that.
Michael.
Byron Jim Crow Donalds rolling. This is, this is karma coming back on him. He raised $100 million in his campaign, and last time I checked, got only 49% of the vote. Yeah, he won the primary, but how much money he raised, and he still didn't get 50% of the vote? Byron, these white people are just not that into you. I hope David Jolly whoops his ass. I hope David Jolly, former Republican, David Jolly makes a lot of sense in many areas, and makes more sense than Byron Donalds does. All this ass kissing that Byron Donalds has done, endorsed by Donald Trump in red Florida, and he didn't get 50% of the vote. Okay, so it's interesting. I remember, Roland, when you had Byron Donalds on, and he was complaining that he was rejected by the Congressional Black Caucus, if I remember correctly. He wanted to join, and they didn't want him to join. And I remember Joanne Reed talking about how he tried to woo his first wife, the black one, with a fake Jamaican accent, all that stuff. Yeah, okay, Donald. Yeah, all this is coming out. Byron Jim Crow Donalds. Look him up.
Well, it shall be interesting. You also have Republican Congressman John James, who's running for governor in Michigan. There was another brother. He ran for a Republican nomination in Minnesota. He got trounced. So has not been a good year for black Republicans. Listen, the reality is Florida it favors Republicans, okay? It favors Republicans. And so Jolly is going to have to really put together a significant coalition in order to win. Democrats have not won there statewide. Nikki Fried was the last one. She's now the chair of the party. She was the last one to actually win statewide in Florida, and so they're trying to put that together. Yeah, but one of the things that is going to have to happen, that they're going to have to understand when you talk about running, and I'm going to pull this up. Let me try to find it, and that is what is interesting on the Jolly side, and then also dealing with Representative Angie Nixon. She was able to bring out voters, and I'm trying to find the graphic. I saw it earlier. I'm trying to find it right now. She was able to bring out voters who were not involved in elections. So he won more high-end voters. And so they're going to have to actually really merge that to win. A lot of these people keep talking about DSA. In fact, if y'all have the clip of Angie Nixon with Christian Welker, Angie was like, man, y'all the ones who keep bringing this up. Y'all have it? Roll it.
I don't understand what is wrong with me not wanting people to go bankrupt if they go to the doctor. There are literally people who are dying because health insurance companies want to deny their claims. They want to deny them life-saving health care. Like, that is wrong. Do we not see anything wrong with these companies doing this? They're only doing this because they want to make a profit.
Why join the DSA if you disagree with various parts of their platform? Does it not just become a distraction from your own campaign and your own agenda?
You all are the only ones that are distracted. I'm actually going out talking to voters about the things that matter to them. And so we should make sure that we're pivoting to the right conversations. The fact remains that there are people who are dying because they don't have access to quality health care. Meanwhile, Ashley Moody voted to end the ACA subsidies. As I stated, nearly 300,000 people fell off the Affordable Care Act rolls. There are people who are dying because they don't have access to health care. Also, the fact that Ashley Moody is corrupt, right? She's corrupt. She allowed $10 million that was supposed to go towards the most medically needy kids to be diverted because they wanted to defeat 2 citizen-led ballot initiatives. The status quo is broken. People are losing their minds right now and taking their lives and even taking their children's lives. And the people at the top want to stoke division and want to push this hateful rhetoric. At the end of the day, I have always been about the people of Florida, which is why my campaign is Angie for Florida. I want people to no longer just survive. They deserve to thrive and flourish.
Crushed it. Jessica Tarloff, who is the resident liberal on Fox News is the 5, she towards those idiots as well.
Inadvisable to have only read about something and then probably read propaganda about it in the first place. This was humiliating, like Megan Romer's been humiliating herself with Shannon Bream and with David Remnick, who had the best line where he looked at her really sincerely and he said, "Megan, do you think that's a good idea?"
She said yes.
Yes. But it was still a well-delivered line where he was trying to give her, throwing the lifeline out there, saying you can back off of whatever position it was, whether it was abolishing prisons or getting rid of the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court. Listen, those interviews, obviously catnip for everybody that is concerned about the rise of the DSA wing. So the moderate Democrats and certainly Republicans that want to, cast this vision that now the party is completely overrun with these people and there are no normal human beings anymore. There are plenty of normal human beings. If the DSA representatives who are in elections won every single one of them, it would still be under 10% of the caucus. That's the reality here. And, Angie Nixon is not like Daria-Lisa Chevalier. If you listen to her, if you look at her history, she joined the DSA, first of all, 2 months ago. This is someone with a long history of union organizing. She won all of the counties with the lowest income and the least educated people in Florida. That is something that you have not seen in other races with a DSA candidate. Huge amount of Black support, very different. And Abdul El-Sayed, who is going to have a very tough road ahead of him, doesn't even affiliate with the DSA and identifies as a capitalist. So while Republicans, and I understand why you're doing it, are spending all their time running clips of this and, feeding it and feeding it and feeding it, races are shifting only in the Democrats' direction. Texas Senate went from lean R to toss-up, so Jesse should help Ken Paxton out a little more. Iowa Senate, lean R to toss-up. Texas governor, solid R to lean R, and Iowa toss-up to lean D. So you can keep talking about this till you're blue in the face, but the country will go blue while you are doing it.
Wow. It's very simple. Listen, it's real simple. And that is, as Agent Nixon, I'm not getting caught up in y'all labels. You could be the biggest capitalist in the world, and the Republicans are still going to call you a socialist and a communist. Any of y'all can jump in.
If you don't mind, Roland, I'll take that because they mentioned Abdul El-Sayed, and he's here in Michigan, and I know Abdul as well. So a few things. Number one,
she also mentioned Texas, so Matt could jump in. Man, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Man, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Also, it's good seeing you this weekend, Roland, in Atlanta at the NABJ conference. Great job moderating the panel discussion also. So a few things. Number one, I watched the full 12-minute interview that Kristen Walker did on NBC Now with Angie Nixon yesterday. Angie Nixon said she's a capitalist. And when you research Angie Nixon, because Angie Nixon is a business owner also, okay? And she said she's a capitalist. She joined the Democratic Socialists of America. She joined it in June of 2026, just a few months ago. And with any political party, generally speaking. Most people who join a political party don't agree 100% with the platform. There are a few things here and there they disagree with. So I see in corporate control media them trying to drive this wedge and going after Angie Nixon with the DSA title, but not saying that she's a capitalist. And you mentioned they mentioned Saeed there on the 5, and he lost the black vote here in Michigan. Okay, he did appeal to younger African Americans and younger people in general, and he appealed to a lot of low information voters. So he has a lot of work to do in the African American community, especially some black people as well as black women who are still upset about the uncommitted movement. Okay, and that's why a lot of them are upset with Rashida Uncommitted Tlaib also. And lastly, with David Jolly, I saw the piece that you played, I think last night, Roland, of David Jolly when he was on MS Now, because I saw that live. David Jolly talks about how he supports Angie Nixon, but he's going to have to do a better job of answering that question when they say, can they nominate, can they elect David Jolly and Angie Nixon? Yes, Florida can do that.
Yeah.
Yes, don't say, well, it's up to the voters. No, the answer is yes.
Well, but listen, what I'm saying here is what you are seeing, Candace, you are seeing people who are fighters and people and voters are saying, that's who I want. I mean, I'm telling you, this is very reminiscent to me of the rise of the Tea Party Freedom Caucus members. And remember, the Freedom Caucus in the House, it's only about 20 or 30 of them. They're not the majority, but they wield significant power. So I need folk to focus on beating MAGA and not playing media games, getting caught up in titles.
And here's what we know. When it comes to somebody like Angie Nixon, the person who has the boots on the ground and is doing the work, people don't care about titles. People don't really even understand titles in socialism, old school socialism, new school socialism. They just see the work and they see the type of work in terms of the clip that we just saw. They also can identify with what she's saying in terms of people do not have money for insurance. People do not have money or time for the algorithm of an insurance company in order to be determining whether they're getting an MRI or cancer treatment that they need. This is why Luigi Mangione was able to plead guilty and mic it off on the state, because he's got so many people that finally found a vessel in him to not see him as a murderer, but make him a martyr, because of all of the disgust that they have because of the system. So when they see somebody like her talking the talk and walking the walk, the label doesn't matter. People just need to know, are you going to make my life easier in this area and that area? And she's doing the work.
Matt?
You know, when we're mired in conversations about class struggle, and you have the mayor in New York City talk about affordability issues and making buses free and those kinds of things, people are worried about deliverables. I don't think the vast majority of people are thinking that these DSA candidates are walking around waving around the Communist Manifesto and preaching about the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, right? I mean, the reality is they're talking about kitchen table issues, and that's what people are worried about right now. And I think it is a miscalculation to think that you can just reinstitute McCarthyism, say socialist, say communist enough times, and that is going to scare people off of the substantive points. Now, we know not all voters are educated. I have no illusion with that. But clearly, the fact that this is taking root across the country shows that people are more worried about the issues than they are the labels. So I think, going forward, if the Republicans want to push back on that, they need to be more substantive in the pushback rather than merely saying James Tallarico is a socialist or a communist. I mean, even hearing her say that Texas in that Senate race has gone from hard R to a toss-up is crazy, right? Because in my lifetime, we haven't had Democrats across the state, I think, since Ann Richards and around that time. So for that to be a conversation we're having shows you people are looking at the substance, not the labels. And I think that's a good thing.
Okay, I am still cracking up at the absolute crash out of MAGA over Senator John Ossoff mentioning Natalie, Donald Trump's aide. I mean, these people are, y'all, they're literally losing it. I saw this video here. Okay, so first, it's a couple videos we're gonna play. Okay, so this was Fox News, and this is, first of all, somebody who really actually didn't like Trump, but then he switched sides. Hugh Hewitt. Listen to him just, oh my God, whining. Please watch the pearl clutching.
Well, the Atlanta mayor is true, but what Patrick just said, and I got to correct him, is not. Natalie Harp is absolutely above board. John Ossoff, what he said was repulsive. He's been repudiated by David Axelrod and other serious Democrats. He should apologize for what is true about Atlanta.
President Trump left the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Treasury
Natalie
back in
Harp
Trump to
has
take a
not
different
had
plane.
any relationship with the president. It's disgusting.
He didn't say that. He just said he wanted to play with her.
To insinuate that is disgusting.
Listen, I know you're clutching your pearls, but I mean, it's a little rich after the last 10 years.
Do you think it's true? No, you don't. You know it's a lie by Ossoff. You know it's a lie by Ossoff.
Did the president take a plane with her?
Has said that.
Did the president take a plane with her and left the Secretary of State and Secretary of Treasury
She
back?
is a close aide.
Yes or no?
And if you are going to deal in misogynistic lies, shame on you and the Democratic Party.
God
Francesca,
bless you, buddy.
Francesca, quickly, your thoughts.
Boy, they're really wound up. I mean, they're just like, oh my God, how dare you? You want to see senile in action? Here is the Crypt Keeper, Bill O'Reilly, on his show, the sexual harasser, Bill O'Reilly. Oh my God, can't believe John Ossoff. Listen.
They're smear merchants. This Ossoff, I would not vote for, I'd vote for Putin over Ossoff. That's how bad this guy Ossoff is. And believe me, if I were President Trump, I'd be combing everything that Ossoff's ever done for doing this. But you don't get any of that from the press. You got ho, 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 ha, 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 but you didn't get content.
Hey, oh my God. We also got Mr. Lufa, Bill O'Reilly. Didn't you have to pay in Fox $32 million in the sexual harassment law case? Yeah, we've already combed over your stuff. Okay, so y'all, then the funny thing to me was these fools got into it. This is, I'm not gonna play all of it because I don't even want to hear all of it. But Bill O'Reilly and Chris Cuomo, they got it onto the Fox News Lite network, News Nation. And I mean, these people are literally losing their minds.
Now, you teased Ossoff. I want to get to that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So
you said you'd
Ossoff
rather
is
vote
running-
for Putin.
I would.
You'd vote for Vladimir
Ossoff
Putin, who is a murderer. You would vote for a murderer over a U.S. senator.
Well, when you frame it that way, I might stay home.
Yeah, probably a good call, Bill.
Okay. Ossoff goes out there and number one says, Trump, this is Trump's war. He lied about it, but doesn't say what the lies are. I'd like to know what the lies are because I don't know what
That they
are.
were in
And then
imminent
he
threat of
attacks.
getting something, that it would be over in a
All right.
couple of weeks. That's all. Go ahead.
Okay. Maybe that's a miscalculation. It's not a lie. A lie is when you wake up in the morning saying, I'm going to deceive everybody for my own gain. Okay. That's what a lie is. And then Ossoff attacks Natalie Harp. Now, I know Natalie Harp. And there is nobody that I know who works harder for this country. She's always on call. Okay? She is a decent human being. And I can attest to that. Why would you do that? Why would you impugn this woman's character in a cheap gutter snipe way? So Ossoff is a gutter snipe. That's who he is. And the people of Georgia should know because character counts. You know?
Bill, the man he said it about.
What?
And you're going to say, I don't do that. I know, but you only don't do comparison when it's to Donald Trump. The idea that you or a Scott Jennings have your panties in a bunch over what Ossoff said about a woman connected to the president, when this man does nothing but denigrate women for sport on a regular basis.
What
It matters,
aboutism?
Bill? Yeah, because it matters.
It doesn't matter.
If you're going to say you don't like Ossoff talking about Natalie Harp, well, by the way, I'm not endorsing going after anybody. I'm just saying it's a little rich, Bill, that this bothers you.
Stuff.
No, it's not fifth grade.
This is fifth grade
Bill,
stuff.
you can't
Yes,
pretend
it's
to have a
whataboutism.
standard of decency that you don't employ on the president. You can't do that. It's hypocritical.
Button it for a minute. This is going to help your career. We're not talking about Trump and Trump's insults.
Go ahead.
We're talking about a senator from Georgia and his insults.
Yeah.
You deflect into whataboutism.
Yes.
That's fifth grade.
No, it's not. If you're going to be upset about what he said, then you need to employ that standard against the President of the United States, because that is nothing compared to what the President says for sport, and you say nothing. You say, that's Trump being Trump. Well, this is Ossoff being Ossoff.
That's not true.
Love him or hate him.
That's, again, you don't know what you're talking about.
I don't.
I've criticized Donald Trump many times for these ridiculous arguments and insults that lead nowhere. And anybody who watches the No Spin News or sees my commentary knows that.
You were just, you were just using me as a Democrat. You were helping my career by calling me a Democratic spokesperson on your show yesterday?
I'm helping your career.
Donald Trump, he doesn't like him like all Democrats. Like I'm a Democrat. If I'm a Democrat,
I don't care whether you like him or not.
Then you're a Republican. Well, you said it on your show. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't care whether you like him or not. What I want you to stop is the whataboutism.
No.
It is not.
No, comparison matters. If you're going to apply a moral standard or a character standard to one side, apply it to both. That's all I'm saying. You can call it whatever you want.
Each situation is different. This woman is innocent. And did you see the news cycle today? That's all you saw. Was this woman?
That's because you guys won't stop talking about it because you think it's going to help you put down Ossoff. That's
you
why.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys.
I'll just point out that when Barack Obama was accused of being born in Kenya, I broke the story about the two newspapers in Honolulu that had the birth announcements.
Remind me, who was front running that BS? Remind me. Who was it? Anybody?
I don't know who it was. I did my job.
I forgot. It was Donald Trump that was front running that BS. See what I'm saying?
He doesn't run my operation.
Yeah, but you should call it out. You're going to say you broke the story. You went after the BS. There's the captain of the BS team. So why don't you call him out? That's all I'm saying.
I do. You don't follow it. You don't know. You just don't know.
Okay, well, I look forward to it because he just...
I cannot stomach listen to more of that stupidity. That's just stupid dumb. They're just dumb shit. I mean, I do call him out. Dude, no, you don't. Okay, you kiss more ass than Lou Dobbs did when he was alive. I mean, they all do. Maria Bartiromo, the whole Fox News, they all do. They all are a joke. And oh my God, Matt, really? Did Bill O'Reilly actually say character counts?
Yeah, and not only that, it can't be whataboutism if, like Cuomo's saying, you're making a moral judgment. I mean, if you're not doing that with Trump, then you are truly just choosing to be blind. And that's what you see, I think a lot of MAGA people, a lot of Republicans do often, is they just move the goalpost. You don't have the actual conversation. You call it whataboutism or point and deflect somewhere else. But I mean, this is BS. The faux outrage is BS, particularly considering many things that the president has said long before he was ever president and after president.
Candace, these right-wingers, I mean, to see them lose it, I found it to be highly entertaining. I mean, John Ossoff has literally sent these people into a tizzy.
Yeah, and they do keep mentioning his name in order just to keep it alive, hoping that this will kind of gain some momentum, which, if you're going to have a host like that really break down hypocrisy, it will never catch. But this is what we call the manosphere. This is what Trump lives in, and this is how he functions. So, of course, you are probably going to question all the people who have seen them work together and the way she's professed her adoration for him in a way that you generally don't profess your adoration for someone who's an employer unless you want HR to get called. It is something that you kind of got to look at with a little bit of a side eye to figure out, all right, well, who is this young woman? And I know that she had cancer and she believes that, he helped her in a lot of ways, but it is all still kind of curious. So I think that a lot of people are on Ossoff's side to kind of say, you know what? That's worth questioning. And let's see where this goes in terms of it now being on the table like this. And let's let the journalists do their job and the influencers do their job like they did with our day and pull out all of the information and all of the research on Natalie. And let's see what we find.
I am enjoying the crash out, and Michael, I hope they continue.
Yeah, Roland, I am. This is hilarious to me. I've been watching this, and Natalie Harp, she was in the catering truck with Donald Trump as well when he was escaping out of Turkey, when he's leaving Turkey, and so. We can call this segment Grumpy Old White Men. That's what we should call this segment, because it's good to see Hugh Hewitt. I didn't know Hugh Hewitt's ass was still alive. Because I remember when Hugh Hewitt had his tired, dry show on MSNBC for an hour. It was so terrible they cut it down to a half hour. So here you have these two old white men who are going after John Ossoff for just saying he was on the plane with Natalie. He didn't say anything improper or anything like that. But I think these are a bunch of hit dogs hollering. I think a lot of these old white men have a Natalie on the side that's drawing more attention to them. Because if you just listen to what they're saying now, and they're trying to defend Donald Trump, who has a history of misogyny, a man who was found liable of sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll in a civil trial. Okay, a man who bragged about grabbing women by the vagina and laughed about it. So, this I hope more of this comes. This grumpy old white man segment. But this is hilarious to me. But I think a lot of them are feeling the heat and it's drawing more attention. I think there's a lot more Natalie Harps out there that they're trying to hide. Oh, lastly, she went a year without a security clearance. How the hell you that close to the president and you go a year without a security clearance? And from the reporting that I'm hearing, she refused to be subjected to a security clearance, but then he stepped in. I didn't even know you could refuse that. This is some white privilege shit I ain't never heard of before.
Indeed. Our last story this weekend, Chuck Brown Day is expected to take over the nation's capital in Fort DuPont Park. But the Chuck Brown family won't be there. The annual community event is hosted by the D.C. Department of Parks and Recreation and is meant to honor the life and legacy and music of the godfather of go-go. But the family says they're no longer supporting the event meant to celebrate his birthday. They posted this on the social media. The Brown family has decided that due to their marginalization over the past 3 years, with regard to the planning and substance of Chuck Brown Day, which we notified DPR of on February 3rd of this year, we no longer support the Chuck Brown Day event and do not want it to continue unless a new director and project leadership is in place to ensure that our duty to protect the integrity of Chuck Brown's legacy is respected, and that his family's wishes are taken seriously at all times. We can no longer risk allowing the event's organizers' lack of communication, professionalism, and inability to abide by guidelines in contractual agreements to be interpreted as the family's approval of the event and its management. The family is now calling again for new leadership before it will support continuing Chuck Brown Day. Chuck Brown died on May 16, 2012 at Baltimore's Johns Hopkins of multiple organ failure, including heart failure. He was 75 years old. I often would see Chuck on the Tom Joyner Fantastic Voyage cruise, and he always had the party turned up. And so hopefully the family and Washington, D.C. can sort out their differences and then they can stay involved because he certainly was indeed a pioneer. All right, y'all. That is it for us. Let me thank Matt. Let me thank Candace. Let me thank Michael for being on today's show. I certainly appreciate it, folks. That is it for me. Tomorrow in Maryland, I'll see y'all at the Ubiquitous Women Expo. I'll be speaking tomorrow at 11:30. Monday, I'll be broadcasting live from Atlanta. My man Chris Tucker has his golf tournament, and we head back for another year. Y'all remember last year we had way too much fun. And I need to find it. Remember that was that Omega who was talking lots of trash, and I had to just straight score on him. That was pretty funny when we had to do that. So I returned back, hanging out with Chris, helping him raise funds for his foundation, and so really look forward to being back, being there to see him. They do a great job with the tournament. And so look forward to playing and, again, raising money. And as I keep telling y'all, a lot of these events, people have no idea how often these entities, in terms of how much money they raise for so many different charities and the work they actually do. And so we are going to look forward to it. Matter of fact, I'm not going to play all of it. So let me go ahead and see if I can cue it up. Because we had crazy fun last year. And I ran into so many people. Okay, I think, was this it? Was this it? Because one dude was talking so much trash, and I had to light him up. I think let me just, here's some of the last year's, hold on one second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to play for y'all. Here's some of last year. Man, we had a crazy, crazy time out there. Roll it.
This ain't your grandpa.
It's a light day.
This ain't your grandpa New Orleans Saints.
I mean, we got a fan behind for the back of your head.
Yeah.
Well, we got one for your thigh.
Yeah.
We got misting.
Yeah.
Like what?
This is what we do, bro.
Did you grow up in Wisconsin or something?
No, I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
Oh, you grew up in Buffalo?
Yes.
Oh, so that's why your ass can't handle the heat.
Cannot handle the heat.
I mean,
but you be on the corner. When you on the corner.
I mean, listen, you got an AC unit in here too?
Well,
what?
You know, got a little music, you know.
You got deep freeze in the back?
Got some beers, got some cold beers, you know. We just trying to have a good time.
Damn.
This is a new golf. Trying to have a good time, man.
I know. I mean, you got a bucket back here.
Yeah. Practice key. Bucket back here.
Like, are you painting? Oh, like. We got a bucket, we got range balls.
You never know when you're gonna need something.
We got, I mean, again.
You never know when you're gonna need something.
Literally got.
Huh? If you're gonna need something, I got you. I got you. If you need something. That's right.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying.
You never know when you're gonna need something.
He got a little Saints logo, little NFL alumni.
This is how we do. This is how we do it. Hey, baby.
Major, he got 4 fans in here.
Yeah.
Tell me they ain't that hot.
Man, they got fans on the ground. I got fans in the car.
And air conditioned.
Huh?
It's air conditioned.
Thank you.
And he got covers in case it rains.
Hello?
If you need all that, go home. Just go ahead and stay in the house.
Nah, this is my house.
Put some slippers on and stay in the house.
This is my house. Can't you tell?
We got mirrors and everything.
This is my house, man. Inside the junior lights, light on, light on.
What the hell is that, a fire alarm?
Just in case.
What is that?
How many times people call me and say, you got this, I got you. What you need? You got this, I got that.
What's up? Oh my goodness.
What's up, man? Don't get no better.
I'm looking at all these fans he got in here.
Fans on the ground.
He's our pretty boy. He is our designated pretty boy. Designated pretty boy?
Designated pretty boy. Up.
Huh?
Whenever I need a road dog, I remember George Jefferson
right.
moving on up?
Right.
This is one of our brothers who moved on up.
When you ain't got nothing to do, you late for that. This is what you do. That's how you look when you do it. I'm just saying.
Wait a minute. Let me just flash. Ain't nobody trying to see that little bitty ass belt.
Let me just flash a little bit.
First of all, if you gotta hold it up, it ain't worth nothing.
Yeah. You know what it is.
Nobody know what that is. That's called a flyaway signal.
That's my boys.
That's the flyaway signal.
That's my boys. That's why we roll.
Oh, that's all your boys in prison?
Yeah. We ain't no social club.
That's all your boys in prison?
We ain't no social club.
You know y'all got more prison chapters than anything. Let me tell you something.
Allegedly.
Anytime I see an Omega, I check for electronic monitoring. I let the see, make sure his probation officer let him come out here.
Yeah. We count our monies in hundreds and thousands and millions.
Now, you know, dog, that's a lie. Now you
know that.
You know, y'all got a bunch of pensioners.
Wait a minute, man. This is just in the neighborhood. Look, goddamn shack.
You know.
Okay. I think he got a couple of them millions.
Who?
Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay, you ever heard it?
And he is a Q.
Let me ask you.
And there's another guy
let me ask you a question.
named Michael Jordan.
You ever heard of Robert Smith?
You ever heard of Michael Jordan?
No, you ever heard of Robert Smith?
Oh, yeah, I heard of him.
Right.
And?
He's an alpha.
Yeah, okay.
You go sit your ass down.
Yeah.
So you right. So if you take Michael's money and put it with Shaq's money and all the rest of y'all money, y'all still can't eat Robert Smith. Now go sit your ass down. You can't.
Wait a minute.
He got $9 billion. You can't. Y'all ain't good. Y'all ain't good at counting.
Last I checked, we got a Super Bowl champion too.
Who?
The one that just won the damn Super Bowl. Yeah. Jalen Hurts.
Do you know how many?
Jalen Hurts.
You know the historic alphas we got in the one Super Bowl?
Super Bowl.
First of all,
Super Bowl champion.
Which NFL player outside of Tom Brady has most Super Bowl rings?
If you gonna brag, motherfucker, you ought to know the name.
Which one? Which one? You ever heard of Charles Haley?
Man, that's so old.
No. But how many rings he got?
That's old though.
And you know what he is? That's an alpha man. Go and sit your ass down. You can't out-talk me. You can't out-talk me.
God, where you go?
You better retire. Did you just proudly yell that Thurgood Marshall was an Omega? Did you just say Thurgood Marshall was an Omega? Did I just hear that right? No, hell no. Did you just say that Thurgood Marshall was an Omega? Last I checked, Thurgood Marshall plays Alpha at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania.
This was after he tried to play us.
Oh, hell no. You don't even know your own damn history.
He meant Thurston Marshall.
Oh, Thurston Marshall, yeah. Because I know Thurgood. Remember, Dr. King, Alpha. Thurgood Marshall, Alpha. Jesse Owens, Alpha. Do you want me to continue? I'm gonna hurt your feelings. Better sit your ass down.
Whatever.
Better sit your ass down. Hold up. Whenever they say whatever, that means the ass whipping has commenced.
Whatever, Roland.
You gonna make the show on that one.
Yeah,
oh, you gonna make the show on that one.
I do not know why Omegas and Sigmas and Kappas, Iota ain't smart enough to challenge me. I don't know why they try, but I'm gonna put them in a rhetorical body bag every time. All right, y'all, we're gonna have some fun on Monday at Chris Tucker's golf tournament. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If y'all want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's for credit cards as well. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. PayPal again. R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get your Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network swag, all of our new shirts. Get that Robert Patillo Flamethrower shirt, and so our America 250 shirts as well. All of that is at shopblackstarnetwork.com. Of course, support all the black-owned businesses in our marketplace as well. They're all right there. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Every product you see right here is available right there on our website. Download the app, fan base, and please follow me at Roland S. Martin. All right, y'all, that is it. I'm going to see y'all Monday from Atlanta right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. And so we're going to make a few more putts and shots like this here. So roll this here, and then we're going to roll the credits. I'm going to see y'all Monday. Holla!
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with